I have to say I'm mildly hungover.
Are you really?
Sorry. It was a big Monday night.
Welcome to another episode of the Fitish podcast. And Jenna gets to drink during the week.
Yeah, I do, but it's not that enjoyable. And this is the first time I had gone out to eat in a while, but I have a girlfriend who's dating a guy from Mexico City. So of course she wanted Fran to meet the guy, and he was amazing, but they like to drink. I found myself at 11 o'clock last night. Fran's like, let's go to this hotel and have a drink. And I'm like, let's go home.
What'd you get drunk on? Wine?
Oh, yeah, that's all I drink.
That's what you drank.
Yeah, wine. Fran has ranch waters and who knows what else. Yeah.
I could see you doing the sipping tequila.
Sipping tequila.
Yeah, that's pretty classy, and it looks like water.
Okay, I'm gonna just reveal something. I do it sometimes in Mexico because him and his family. I mean, they will polish off a bottle of tequila at dinner like it's no thing, and I'll sit there and I'll sip it, and it's just killing me. I have not acquired a taste for sipping tequila. I don't care what anyone says. I'm old enough now, JC, that I just drink what I like, and what I like is a very heavy cab. I asked for the heaviest they have, so heavy I could chew through it. That's what I want.
That's a red wine, right?
A cab. Yeah, heavy cab. That's my go-to.
Is Pinot Noir, is that red?
Pinot Noir is also a red. Yes, it is. But it's a much lighter red. I do not like it.
What about the Chardonnay?
The Chardonnay is a white that I also do not like. I do not like white. I like a champagne every now and then. Don't like rosé. I'm a weirdo.
I'm one of those people, Jenna, that believes that you could put a $2,000 bottle of wine in front of me or a glass, and then you can give me that nice $5.99 barefoot from 7-Eleven that I happen to catch all the time. And I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference. In fact, I would tell you both taste equally just as good. Challenge
accepted. And though my budget is not quite with a $2,000 bottle of wine, I tend to drink some of my favorite wines hover in the $60, $70 a bottle, which, by the way, in a restaurant is 2.5 times more expensive than that. And it gets very expensive when you drink that every single night. Yeah. So I will rise to your challenge. I will bring you one of my favorite expensive-ish wines that I like to drink and a cheap wine, and I guarantee you're going to be able to tell the difference.
Would you consider Menage a Trois as a cheap wine?
Yeah.
It is? Oh.
Yeah.
That was $11.99, so $13 sometimes. That's.
I mean, I don't know what about a threesome sounds cheap, but yeah.
Yeah, right? And it's if it's French, I tend to, equate it to something that's really good. So if it's a French word.
Okay, well, challenge accepted. So on the next podcast, look forward to that. I think that's actually a fun thing to do. Maybe we can do a reel.
Yeah.
For my Instagram.
Because I've been trying
to do reels. I'm trying to do reels. No, JC, so much has happened in the last week, y'all, since we did a podcast. And so I hope you don't mind that I am going to take over right now. And I'm going to tell you about the emergency surgeries that took place and all of the drama.
Okay, so this is going to be a very Jenna heavy podcast, and it's going to be a tight podcast because Jenna's drama is happening today as well.
Yeah, it is. So I have medical issues. Fran has medical issues. No, first we can start with Fran. So Fran, I told you, was in Mexico last week when we were doing the podcast. He had some business. He had to open a bank account, and he, in Mexico for business. And so only he could do that. So, because we're not really into the travel right now unless it has to be done. So it was also his dad's 70th birthday. Fran's had some digestive issues in the last couple of years. He'll have really bad indigestion in general. And so we've read about it, and they say that, your esophagus, actually, it happens to a lot of grown men that eat a lot of, meat and drink beer and soda, that they'll get, as they get older, their esophagus, you'll get esophagitis or something like that. So you get scar tissue in your esophagus from all the acid, right?
Is it like herpes for the esophagus?
It is. No, it's not an STD. Yeah, but it can create a lot of problems, as you could assume, when food's trying to go down. So he'll be like, I have food stuck. Well, he calls me from Mexico. He goes, I am flying home tomorrow morning. I have to go to the ER. I was like, what's happening? He goes, I have not been able to keep down even water for 15 hours.
Like puking it out? Just
right, but not in a nauseous way. So basically he would swallow things, and then they would, a few minutes later, come back up completely. So even water, he couldn't even get liquid to stay down. It would just, he said he'd feel it sitting here and it would come back up. And I'm thinking, well, this isn't okay, because it's food's one thing, but the human body, you can't really go a couple days without water. So we took him to the ER as soon as he landed, and they immediately got us in for emergency surgery. And let me tell you, being in a hospital right now is a very strange and eerie sort of thing. So we went into the emergency room and they're trying to get patients behind curtains, of course, because they don't want a bunch of people sitting in a waiting room. So they actually are finding rooms in the ER for almost everyone, which is nice. But they immediately administer a COVID test, and that did not look enjoyable for him.
They go straight to the brain, bro.
He was on IV fluid, a COVID test, because if you're in the hospital about to get surgery, they have to do a COVID test on you now. They didn't even wait for the results though, because they deemed this to be such emergency that they got him in for an emergency endoscopy where they, were putting camera down and seeing what's going on. And so, we were there for a while. It took a while to get him in.
Did you watch the endoscopy take place?
I didn't. I sat in the waiting room. Of course, kind of like, what's going on? Trying to speak to his parents, his mom, having a deep medical conversation with someone about the treatment and what's happening when she doesn't speak. She speaks some English, but that's actually really hard. So I was like, have his sister call me because she speaks better English, because she doesn't understand everything I'm saying about an endoscopy and, what the procedure is. La boca.
La lengua.
La camera.
No puede comer.
So anyway, he's okay. However, I'm thinking he had all this scar tissue and they're going to have to shove something down there and figure it out. So I walk into the room that they did the procedure in, and they go, it was a giant piece of chicken. He had a piece of food. He argues that it was steak because he said that's the last bite of food he had, but it looked white. So there is a photo and it looks so sexual. It's the weirdest photo because once they get in there,
Well, the endoscopy just looks like at first looks like a vagina.
It does, right? Yeah, but your throat really does. Yeah. And so, no, he had this huge piece of food. When I show y'all, I'll just have to show you all the photo. It's actually ridiculous.
You have it on your phone?
I do have it on my phone
because
I took a picture. I'll show you to see what your reaction is. We'll see if we can insert it into the podcast for y'all to see. Is that possible, Mike?
Of course.
A photo.
We can insert so many things.
So I was like, wow. So we spent the whole day in the ER. I was like, do you even chew, man? Do you even chew your food?
What is it, like a whole drumstick or something?
Look at this. Nothing could get, I don't look at JC's face.
Are you sure that's not a butthole?
It looks like a butthole with a piece of food coming out of it. Yeah.
Bro, this is not, I can't look at Fran.
We'll throw this in so we can do like a quote over the shoulder, like, look at this, Yeah, anyway, so nothing could get down. So they pushed it through. And so he's been struggling actually ever since, because they say your esophagus gets so used to, it's like an emergency, right? So your esophagus, your body just starts going, I got to get it up or down, up or down. So for the last few days, he finally kept some food down last night.
I can't unsee that, bro.
I know. Crazy, right?
So that piece of chicken was blocking food from just going down.
Yeah.
Just that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, blocking even water. And I was like, do you chew? So the thing is, it wasn't just the food. He has some scarring. He does have that esophagitis. I think that's what it's called. I don't really remember. There was a lot going on.
Esophageal disease.
Yeah, so he has to be on like a prescription. Antacid, essentially, I think is what it is, like a stronger version of like a Prevacid or something like that, to take every day to keep that acid down. So every time I see him going to drink like a Guinness, I was like, I don't want to be that person, but I'm like, Fran, you're not 20 anymore. I think you should. I mean, you got to think that the shit that we're eating at home sometimes, like we were getting these salt and vinegar potato chips covered in tahini, chamoy, hot sauce. Like it is a lot of flavoring and it cannot be good for the tummy.
We might need to book like a gut expert on the show to come in here and help us out, because during Christmas time, I always get this thing right here. And it's always when we go on vacation, and I've actually had to go to the hospital and I got like a sonogram taken of me.
Yeah.
And it's always just indigestion. It's just heartburn. It's just some buildup. And it's always because of spicy food, and it's drinking too much.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm on vacation. So I'm drinking a lot more than I normally would than I would on a regular day. But wow. That I'm glad he's okay.
I'm glad he's okay too, because it all happened so quickly that I was sitting there with all of his things and I was like, bye. Like I realized I didn't even kiss him bye. And I know that a lot of, surgery, right? Surgery is a little alarming. And so I just kind of was like, I hope everything ends up being okay. I couldn't help but think how, we just went to a funeral for a man who had some issues and, he was just, they were going to keep him there for a few days and his wife went home to take a shower and he died. And I'm just like, oh, so that's like running through my head. But, step by step, the hospital was great. So he's okay.
Calling him chicken breath now or what?
Chicken breast. Yeah. He just wants to argue that it was steak. I was like, babe, I don't care what it was. Fucking chew. Like, chew your food. But of course he's saying it wasn't just for lack of chewing. He's like, I promise it wasn't that big of a bite. I think I have swelling. I was like, all right.
Man, all the jokes that are coming to my head right now. So I can make fun of him when I see him in person next time.
You will. He'll be walking in here in a minute because now we have a doctor, a joint doctor's appointment. This is so fascinating. I should have recorded our conversation the other night because we've joked a lot about us trying to kind of start a family and this whole thing. So we have some news here. We went to, I'm so glad, by the way, that I talked a lot about this when I was on the radio show, but I got an opportunity to freeze my eggs a couple years ago. It was right when I started dating Francisco, and I was about to be 35 when I did this. And I thought, well, hey, this is expensive. I got to do an endorsement on the show. I jumped on the opportunity. It was difficult. I had to do the shots and do the egg retrieval. So I've had these eggs frozen for the last couple of years, and I'm really glad I did it because now I, for 6 months haven't been able to get pregnant, and we've tried. And so yesterday we went to the doctor to do blood work. Guys have it so easy, by the way, and women know this. Like,
what do you mean?
He literally has to go beat off into a cup.
First of all,
pee and beat off into a cup. And he was like,
science.
he goes, the room was creepy though. I'm like, oh, get out of here. Do you know what I had to get done? I had to get a saline sonogram, which sounds like it'll be no big deal. So I give like 8 vials of blood, urine, because they want to check you to make sure everything's okay before they go through with putting an embryo in there. And so they like to check the whole little uterus area in here. And so the saline, you're like, okay, so they're just going to like squirt some water in there, And so I'm in there, and anyone that's had that kind of sonogram situation, that it's no more uncomfortable than like a regular annual gynecology visit. I mean, if y'all know, it's a strange sensation because obviously someone's putting something that's kind of like cold and like foreign in there.
It's not sexual at all.
And they're looking around. Yeah. No, it's not sexual at all.
When they do that on those tests, are the doctors going like, interesting. Do they do that stuff?
No, they're really professional, and the doctor that I see, there's always another person in the room now as when women go get this done, whether it's a male or a female doctor, there's always someone else, obviously. And so no, he actually has a screen next to you. So he'll show, whether, I guess I'm assuming, if you're kind of dilated or how big the follicles are. And so he traces lines and he'll point to the screen and kind of explain to you like, okay, this is the back of your uterus. This is the front. But usually you're just laying there and you're like, I don't care, just to be done with it. So they put cold water in there. I was like, is this going to hurt, by the way? I don't know why I waited till that moment to ask because I was, Fran wasn't in there with me. He was doing his own thing and they don't really like letting people in the room if they don't have to be. And so you're kind of going through it all alone. And the nurse is like, it's going to be like mild menstrual cramping. Holy shit, liar.
Was it
out of
heavy?
Nowhere, y'all? I felt like what women must feel like being in labor. I was like, it felt like I had like 1,000-pound elephant standing on my lower back. I was like, oh shit. And it was like, it only lasted like 5 minutes, but
that's
it was
a long
very
time.
Uncomfortable. And sadly, I have like a polyp in my uterus. So I have to go in a couple weeks. Now I have to get surgery before I could even do
a polyp?
IVF.
Is that like a skin?
Like a cyst, yeah. So I have something in my uterus, which they say usually is why women either can't get pregnant or they'll get pregnant and miscarry because of it. So of course I was kind of bummed. So I set up and he's going through all of this, and out of nowhere I was about to pass out. Like I started, when you start seeing spots, I was like, oh shit. I was like, I had so many questions for him, but I couldn't even get my thoughts together. Yeah. I was like, can I? And he's like, oh, this is very normal. I was like, man, I would have liked a heads up on this shit. Like I would have liked to know because you don't think you've just given 8 vials of blood. You haven't had anything to eat. You realize now you have to go get a surgery in a couple of weeks, but your body's failing you. And it's a kind of an emotional thing and no one's in the room. And I was like, I think I'm going to pass out. And so out of nowhere, the nurse is like, here, animal crackers, which are so good, by the way. Like,
you forget how good they are.
Man, animal crackers are good. And a water. And then I felt fine. But yeah, so I have a doctor's appointment here in a minute to talk about it.
After hearing you talk about that, you're right. Guys have it way easier. And what I want to create.
Fran calls me last night, by the way, or I was at work after this whole thing. And he's like, hey, babe. He goes, So the sperm count came back. They said it tasted great. I was like, get out of here. I was like, get out of here. I was like, so this was your hard day. He's like, my sperm's great. They're swimming, they're mobile. And I was like, great. So my body's the one that's at fault. And I think that's sometimes what men don't understand. And I still have a lot of options here, but I think if any woman's kind of gone through this, I guess it's a good thing that we did this, because now I know that it's likely me, is the reason. And so, yeah, but I have to go now get a surgery and get that cut out.
But you'll be fine.
I hope so. I hope so. Man. It's just disappointing. I know. So it's upsetting.
I did have an invention that I wanted to create for donations, and I don't know if they have them. It's a one-time use fleshlight. You know what a fleshlight is?
A fleshlight. Fleshlight.
It's an apparatus that some gentlemen use when they don't have a girlfriend or a wife, and they want to take care of business on their own. It looks like a flashlight, but you use your flesh. And
like a pocket.
Yeah.
Pee.
Yeah, it's a pocket. It's a pocket gina. And so what I thought is, why don't we create these one-time use only for the hospitals, so the guys don't have to aim into cups, because we can barely pee into cups. Right?
Oh, I see. So like it goes through. Boom. I'm sorry, because it's just so hard to go like look at a photo and pleasure yourself in a waiting room while we're getting anxiety. Like poked and prodded.
Sure.
Wow, guys have it so easy.
We do have it really easy, but I wanted to make it a lot easier for us. But Jenna, I know that I know you're going through things right now, but you can always go to our friends at BetterHelp. At BetterHelp. I love this, actually. I'm so glad we're talking about them, because you and I are both very vocal proponents of seeking therapy and talking to someone. I mean, therapy in general has helped Fran and I, and we'll probably do more therapy. I mean, even if things are okay in your life right now, I think you can learn a lot about yourself by doing therapy. People wonder what is therapy? Well, therapy is actually anything you want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you just have some life goals, or you just want to work on bettering yourself, or you're having relationship issues or issues with parenting, or you're feeling really down, especially with everything that's been going on in the world. I think we're all feeling a little out of sorts. And BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't have to see anyone on camera if you want to. I know that that's something that gets in the way of going to therapy, like going to a doctor's office, people in the waiting room, it being uncomfortable. But everything virtual these days, I find it to be just so amazing. It makes it so convenient. You can just like step away from working from home and go talk to someone about your issues. And, our podcast is now sponsored by BetterHelp, and Fitish listeners are actually going to get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Fitish. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Fitish. So get on that. Go check it out. JC and I encourage you to do so.
Take care of your mental health. I know I'm approaching my time of the year where it hits me the hardest. So I will definitely be talking to my friends at BetterHelp a lot. So I'm sorry you're going through all that, Jenna.
It's okay. I mean, I think that there's a lot of women go through that sort of thing. And I always thought, I'll be fine if I'm infertile, because that's the word that gets brought up. They say if you're 35 or older, you've tried for 6 months or you have an issue like this, that they consider that infertility. And it's crazy because, I have girlfriends that they got pregnant while on birth control, taking a Plan B the next day without even trying, and the baby turned out fine. It's like, are you kidding me? And then you have women that just, they just like keep popping out babies. And then you have women that, I have friends that have, really struggled. And so, one day at a time, right? Because we'll see how many embryos we even get. And then I'll go through this. So I'm going to get this surgery in a couple weeks. When JC was walking up, it was kind of funny because the last thing he heard me say, I was on the phone with the nurse, and I was like, okay, I'll call you when I get my period because I have to wait. And so that's what JC
I feel like that was a conversation I would hear all the time in college, just walking by classes, like the girl, I'll call you when my period comes. This was different. I was like, whoa. Hi, Jenna. Good to see you.
Yeah, but it's okay. Fran, I thought it'd actually be great content. So the paperwork, Fran and I are not married yet. And so I know y'all go ahead and judge if you want that we're talking about having a family. Because I know that's a lifelong commitment, even more so in my opinion than getting married is. But you have to sign a hell of a lot of paperwork when you're going through in vitro. And it's interesting because him and I didn't necessarily agree. And it's really great that they have you do this when things are good and you're planning on starting a family. But paperwork that, we're actually going to opt in for some certain genetic testing that you're not legally required to do some of this genetic testing, but we're going to do it because we want to make sure we have a better chance, at my age of getting pregnant. So they'll bring in these embryologist specialists that will like pick his best sperm and my best egg and make sure that everything looks good. So no, you can't choose eye color, hair color, but you can choose the sex.
The best sperm?
You choose the sex. Yeah, you can choose the sex. And then it gets you into these interesting conversations. So you have to say, what will we do with these embryos if I die, if the patient dies, or if the spouse, the partner dies? And so, that's easy for us. Like obviously if he dies, I keep them. If I die, he can decide what he wants to do with them. But then if you both die, and the options they give you are, and it's interesting to think about with science because you can either destroy them, and I know a lot of people have feelings about, their
sort of life
form, right? I'm not one of those. I'm very pro-choice in general in life. I mean, not late-term abortion, but I'm very pro-choice depending on the situation. And so I don't know how I feel. I don't like the idea of destroying them, and neither does he. But he was leaning more towards that than donating them to another couple or donating them to science because he doesn't like the idea of, well, what do they do if you donate them to science? It says it will not result in the birth of a child. They do guarantee that, but I think that a lot can be learned. If we're both dead and I have a bunch of embryos and they could do, if you study vaccinations, they actually learn a lot from aborted fetuses. Mm-hmm. And so I know that's a hard thing to wrap your head around, but if the woman dies while giving birth and the baby, doesn't make it or something, they'll sometimes, if the family allows it, they'll do testing on the fetus. I know that's really dark, but they've gotten vaccinations, that have like obviously cured diseases, back in time. So, but he doesn't like the idea of it. So we kind of argued on it for a moment, but it was interesting conversation, us kind of going through that and talking about what we want to do in case of divorce, what happens to them. So, and then you have to get it notarized. So it's like, you're kind of getting married. It is, but it's nice that they make you make all those decisions.
So many things you got to think about.
A lot to think about, a lot.
I'm mostly thinking about like, was I the best sperm?
Did you contribute the best sperm? Or
no, like, was I the best sperm? Like me? JC, am I the best sperm out of my father? Like what if there was another guy that was way better and he just didn't make it to the egg?
It's usually the fastest one, right? If you're getting pregnant naturally, it's usually the fastest.
I was pretty fast, Jenna, but I'm also the shortest guy in my family, which means I probably wasn't the best sperm.
Yeah, you might not have been the best sperm.
Yeah, I was the shortest little sperm.
So we'll be choosing the best sperm.
Yeah, that's
of
the best.
Franz. Yeah.
Congratulations to the best sperm in the future.
But yeah, it kind of brought us to this conversation of, when the sex of the baby, and now sex is the appropriate thing to say. So did you hear that they're calling that with everything going on, it's such a millennial thing? And, I respect, the trans community, of course, and some of these pronouns that they want people to use, but now you're supposed to say babies.
Babies? But baby is a unisex, right?
Babies. They're calling them babies. So, yes, I will know the sex, and you don't say gender now, right? Because gender is how you identify. And so, but sex is your actual sexual organs, what you are born with. And so, so you can choose the sex of what you're putting in, but as much as I'm like, girl, I want one of each. So I think we've decided, we're just going to say, just put in the healthiest. They'll know what they're putting in. But if we get to this point, just put in the healthiest embryo that's there. And then we'll find out later, because they say you start to humanize, right? I mean, you start to identify with like, oh, it's a little girl, or, oh, it's a little boy. And then if you lose it, which happens to a lot of women, you'll lose, then you're exponentially sad.
It's not a boy or a girl, Jenna. That's just a sandwich.
I'll just tell you what, I just hope whatever comes out of me is covered in this brown hair that Fran has. Like, I want this Mexican looking baby. Curls? I know I give a little bit of a vibe of it, even though I'm not at all Latina. I hope that, but I do have great hair. Fran has great hair. I just want this baby to have like a lot of hair.
Even if the baby doesn't have great hair, there's ways around it. You can buy your baby some pros when they get older, right? When they get to be of age.
Your pros is like,
I'm all about my pros.
Your hair is out of control.
You talk about curls. I don't have curly hair at all, but I do have pros. So here's the thing about pros. Pros hooks you up with your own formula, right? So you'll go online and you let them know what you're looking for when it comes to your hair. And then they create your own formula, your own smell. You even get to pick the smell, and then they send it out to you and you try it out for that long.
Amazing.
And then you start noticing, I'm getting some curls here and there. Maybe you want to refine a little bit or change it up with your formula. You can do that as well. You just got to go to their website and then they'll send it to you again. You can change up your shampoo as often as you want or keep the same formula. It's freaking awesome. The shampoo is one of those things I'm now fighting my kids with because they're starting to notice how dope my hair is looking. And it's the best. I honestly have never thought about shampoo until I started growing my hair out. And Pros makes that easy. So if you want that hair regimen that I'm rocking right now with your name all over it, take your free in-depth hair quiz right now and get 15% off your first order today. Just go to pros.com/Fitish. That's PROSE.com/Fitish. You'll get that free in-depth hair quiz and you'll get that 15% off. And I'm telling you, this is awesome. They have over 1 million consultations and we want that to grow because we want everybody out there with good hair. Jenna, I saw some drama in person and I want to get your thoughts on this real quick.
Okay.
I started venturing out. And I went out for a couple drinks at this restaurant. And I noticed a couple having a very animated conversation. This is a couple that I just met that night through a friend of a friend.
Oh, okay.
We talked about Menage a Trois, the wine earlier. These people were talking about Menage a Trois, the actual sex act.
Right.
And it wasn't...
You always find yourself in these predicaments.
Oh, I love these conversations, right? So we're sitting there and it's a couple guys, guy and a girl are dating. And they start asking, one of the guys brings up threesomes. And the girl goes, yeah, I mean, I might think about it one day. Yeah. You know, if he's lucky, if the drinks are right and the person's correct and everything's all good. And the guy goes, oh, that's cool. Like, are there any girls in your, like, that you guys hang out with that you would be cool with? And she goes, yeah, I think there's a couple girls. And the guy's sitting there with a smile on his face. Like, yo, this might happen. And you
got to go with a stranger. That's my first opinion here.
I think
right?
so.
But because yeah.
I mean, I don't know how that world works, but yeah, probably a stranger that you would never see again would be a good look. But she goes, yeah, there's a couple girls and there's a girl at work and she says a girl's name or whatever. And then one of the other dudes, here comes devil advocate guy. He goes, what about a guy though? Would you guys be interested in a third?
It's all fun and games until the girl says she wants the third person to be a guy.
And so the guys, I'm looking at the guy when this starts happening, and his facial expressions are changing a little bit. And she goes, "Yeah, I'd be interested if a guy wanted to partake in a threesome." And he's not saying anything. And that devil advocate guy goes, "Well, who are there any guys you could think of?" She says a guy's name. She full on said a guy's name.
And he knows the guy.
And the guy knows that guy. He got pissed. It was all fun and games when she was saying girls' names.
Oh, yeah.
And he agreed with the girl's name. She didn't get mad when he agreed with the girl's name. But as soon as the guy got brought into the equation and she said a guy's name, he lost it. And then there were the couple in the corner arguing. I'm trying to think, if couples are having this conversation, why is it so taboo for the girl to be bringing in guys' names? I personally wouldn't want that. I'm not saying I want that.
No.
But I almost side with the guy.
Really?
As crappy as that sounds.
It is crappy.
I don't know why, but I think it's just because us guys are so visual and there's a difference between a girl kissing a girl and a guy doing things to a girl.
I just completely disagree, but that just should be a red flag to her and a lesson to her that he's not emotionally mature enough to even handle a threesome at all because, you know, I mean, and I know that works for people and I don't think it would work for me. I know Francisco, I know myself. Same. I don't, you know, I you know, we're sexual people, but at the same time, I think monogamy is more the thing for me, at least in this part of my life. I would struggle with it, you know, and wondering, and some people are open, but he's not ready. I mean, that's not okay. That's not okay. You can't say that a girl that y'all know in your group of friends is fine, but a guy's not.
Right. But man, dude, this dude's facials went from super happy to the saddest guy in the bar. Just the saddest. Just so mad.
Nothing like having a few drinks and talking about something that's going to piss off the partner.
With randoms, too. It's like, you guys are not doing yourself any service right now.
Always try to like swerve the conversation. It's just people get real heated lately about stuff, though. Yeah. You know, they really do. We get drunk too easily, and we're just the whole vibe's changed.
And you know, from now on in this relationship, this dude's always going to bring that guy up.
Oh, yeah.
You want Jacob to come over? Yeah? Would you like Jacob to help me do the dishes together?
The biggest regret I usually tend to have in relationships, other than just meeting and dating certain people in general, is like ever sharing your sexual history. As you get older, we all have a sexual history, and partners sometimes, especially men, like just can't handle it. You know, Fran knows multiple people that I've dated, you know, in this city, as I know some of his exes, and he still, you know, has this like, you know, rough edge. Anytime the name's brought up or anytime, I can just sense this kind of feeling of, you know, it's insecurity, it's jealousy. And I was like, dude, if I wanted to be with them, I would, but it's not as simple as that. I think they just immediately start to visualize this person like penetrating you. Like that's what they jump to.
That's it. That literally is it. We're such visual dudes where girls are more nurturing and they're more of attachment when it comes to more intellectual level and more spiritual. Us guys, we're picturing a penis going in a vagina. We're like, that's my vagina, you know? And honestly, we all make that mistake because the younger we are, the worse we are at it.
Mm-hmm.
But what is honestly the point of saying, yeah, I had sex with that person over there? Like, what is the point? There's no need to tell your lover that you had sexual relations with somebody else because it doesn't better your relationship.
Right.
It's not going to better anything or your interaction with your boyfriend or girlfriend. It's going to create some sort of hateful response towards that person for the rest of their lives. So, yeah, don't do that.
Well, on that note, y'all reach out to me if you want. I'm happy to talk about the fertility journey if it's of interest to any of you, or if you have any advice, I would greatly appreciate it.
Just make sure you send us a couple emails, and hopefully you're listening to the podcast, maybe in some earbuds. Maybe you're listening at work, and if you are listening on earbuds and you haven't gotten yourself some Raycons, you're missing out. First of all, these are the best earbuds I've ever had. They're affordable, and I've had a bunch of earbuds. We work in the radio industry. These are affordable. They have like 6 hours of playtime. I don't even have to charge them all the time. Sometimes I just let them go for a little bit and I can go the entire week to the gym and not even have to charge my Raycons. The bass on these things, awesome. Whether you're taking phone calls or you're on your Zoom meetings, these are awesome for that as well. No matter what you're doing, if you need something in your ear to listen, Raycons are going to help you out with that. And in fact, if you want in on this deal right here, Raycon is offering 15% off all their products for our listeners. And here's what you got to do. You got to go to buyraycon.com/Fitish. That's it. That's one step only. You'll get 15% off your entire Raycon order. So feel free to grab a pair and a spare for your lover, and 15% off at buyraycon.com/Fitish. Again, that's buyraycon.com/Fitish. And Jenna will be right back, and we'll be back next week with another episode of the Fitish podcast.